YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with NFL Week 5 Sunday games recap. Doing this video every single week. Also got updated power rankings on the way every week. Predictions, score predictions, plenty more here at the Goat House. And we actually have extra content on our Patreon. You see my score predictions here on YouTube, and you can see the defending champs score predictions, Junior that is, on the Patreon. If you sign up for that tier, you also get my updated playoff predictions every single week. I update those, updated mock drafts pretty much every single week with the updated order and prospects. Award predictions. I'm going to put my updated award predictions on there this week too. So constantly adding stuff to the Patreon. So worth looking into. Patreon.com/thegoathouse. Link in the description. Subscriber goal is at 40K by the end of this year. Please help us out by subscribing, trying to reach that goal. Appreciate you very much if you can subscribe, if you already do subscribe. But the recap from Week 5, going through, let's just go through these games here. Technical difficulties with the webcam, so that won't be used today, but that's all right. Show must go on here. Vikings beat the Giants 28-10. Kind of a strange one. I'm going to be saying that a lot for a lot of these games. Another weird week, strange outcomes or way that this wasn't a strange outcome, but the way the game, unfolded. The Vikings, if you watch this game, it felt like this game should have been long over by halftime, but it kind of felt like the Giants were still in the game. The Vikings, I guess, fumbling and penalties pushing them back and getting field goals instead of touchdowns. And another reason why it was weird, the Vikings had 115 yards or so in penalties, and they still dominated this game. Strange. Usually you don't see that. But the Vikings should dominate this game. They should be a much better team than the Giants. Let's see if they can continue to play like that. It's good to see them win away. Another reason for them getting field goals instead of touchdowns early was, I thought, the play calling. The Vikings' problem the last few weeks was the 1 to 2 wide receiver sets. I think one of the reasons why Diggs was upset maybe because, the one receiver sets were with Thielen. Thielen, who had a monster game this week, and Dalvin Cook again, once again, of course. And the 1 to 2 receiver sets were working. They're in, anywhere on the field, they're running it, it's working. And then there's one point where they get to the 1 yard line and they didn't run the ball up the middle once, and they're running 5 wide receiver sets. It's kind of just mind-blowing stuff. I just don't understand it. And end up losing yards, and they end up kicking a field goal. I mean, they still won the game, but I wish, Cousins has a good game, but then the play calling and the play designs weren't so hot. You can't complain too much because they put up some points and they won the game, but I wish everybody was on the same page at once, But another great game from Dalvin Cook. Diggs didn't do a whole bunch, but he did enough to help him. Bissy Johnson, the rookie receiver, he almost looks better than Chad Beebe, which I could have told you before the year started. But there was some reason there was a lot of hype, about Chad Beebe. He's currently hurt. But I guess the Vikings offense was pretty solid. It looks good, better with Josh Klein back. That's a key piece to their offensive line, but there was a lot of penalties on their offensive line, including Elflein, who had an absolutely terrible game once again. Defensive side, Danielle Hunter, some clutch sacks. The guy's an animal. He's very young still. He's one of the better pass rushers in football. Another key game from him. Anthony Barr played out of his mind. He was responsible for that safety and just all over the place this whole game. Got a diving interception as well. But that kind of brings me to the Giants side. Kind of unfortunate. They were down to their third-string running back, so they had no running game, so it was very hard to win this game. People that didn't watch this game, if you go run and look at the stats, you're going to say, okay, Daniel Jones had a bad game, his first bad game. I don't think he had a bad game. I was actually impressed with Daniel Jones. Stat-wise, he didn't get it done. He missed a throw in the end zone. One throw, wish he had it back. I think the interception was, it's on him, but it was a pretty good play by Barr, like I said. But Daniel Jones, I liked the way he was moving around the pocket. Pocket presence was great. The way he was throwing the ball from the pocket. What I saw in this game was promise and potential from Daniel Jones. So I'm fine with his game here. If you want to look at the stats, you won't really see that. He could use a better receiver here and there. Obviously, maybe a couple of them. Not that they played terrible, but obviously they can be better there. And they could be better in the secondary as well, obviously. So it's still a young, growing team. But I guess if you're a Vikings fan, I guess you feel a little more comfortable than not they got an away win, because I was starting to worry that they just couldn't win away. I thought that was a problem. So we'll see what they can do against the Eagles next week. The Cardinals and the Bengals. I picked the Cardinals in this game, but for the reason that they would get a lot of pressure on Andy Dalton, get a lot of sacks, kind of like what happened with Andy Dalton against the Steelers, and that really wasn't the case, but the Cardinals did win. Another strange game. Every game this week was strange in its own different way, and we'll talk about that for every one of these. This was strange because I guess similar to the Vikings game, I thought the Vikings won by halftime even when they didn't, and I thought the Cardinals were pretty much, it felt like they were way out in front in this game, pretty much the whole time, but the Bengals were kind of just still in the game. I felt like the Cardinals were just dominant in this game. I just felt like they were outplaying them. The Bengals continue to make, small mistakes, missing throws. Andy Dalton not having the best game, obviously not having the best year right now. But the Bengals stay, stuck in this game for the most part here, and they made it interesting to the end. Early in the game, the Cardinals were in the red zone. They went for it on fourth down. I loved the call. They snuck Kyler Murray on the outside, too speedy, gets into the end zone. I just love that call. And late in the game to get them in the field goal range, Kyler Murray, you see the elite speed. It's unbelievable. We knew the quickness, and we knew he was fast. We knew he had speed, but geez, he actually might be one of the faster players in the entire NFL. It's ridiculous. This game, unfortunately I didn't catch a whole bunch of this game like the other games, just because, the game, Cardinals and Bengals. But, every time I had my eye on it, it just seemed like, the Cardinals had the control of the game, which I guess you could make the case still that they did because they had to lead the whole time. But, wish they would put the team away. The Bengals kind of just stuck in there. It's an unfortunate season for the Bengals. Tyler Boyd finally got going. It was late, too. I got him on my fantasy team. The struggles were real early, mainly because Andy Dalton. They started getting going, keeping in mind that their whole offensive line's pretty much out, before the season even started, and more guys during the week, and now this, what can you expect, really? But that's my take for that game. Bills and Titans, another strange, I'm going to say it for every game. This game was strange because I thought this when the game ended, and I think it even more now after going back and looking at more because I had to. I thought the Titans did enough to win this game. That's the best way to put it. I thought the Titans did enough to outplay the Bills. I think they did, actually, and they did enough to win this game, but they did not win, and a win's a win in this league for sure. So credit to the Bills. Credit to their defense. I got to give credit to the Bills everywhere. They played a good game. Credit to their defense for holding the Tennessee Titans out of the end zone and forcing the field goals, which were missed. Credit to the Bills' offensive line guys for stepping up. We saw Mitch Morse get hurt, him come out. We see Cody Ford come out for the game. That's crucial. They have depth in the offensive line. It looks pretty good. A lot different than last year. Credit to Josh Allen for playing with he's got to be concussed still after that hit. So stepping up, making some throws. I like the play designs in the red zone on offense for the Bills. The way they use the tight end. So the Bills, it's another one of those good Bills performances. With the Titans, it's just sad if you're a Titans fan because it just felt like the Titans did enough to win this game. They had a couple touchdowns called back. The officiating was pretty rough in general in this game, but they missed a face mask on Mariota early that resulted in no points, which would have led to, you would have to think some sort of points. They called a insane roughing the passer late in this game. I think it might have been the worst one of the year. I think it was Terrell Casey that kind of was falling down and he purposely dove over Josh Allen to not touch him, and they called. I'm still confused about it. It was the worst one probably of the year. There's been some bad ones, but this might be the worst one. And then a lot of penalties on the offensive line. Not that they weren't deserving or anything, but just a lot of penalties that the Titans got to clean up. The offensive line was not good. A bunch of missed field goals and poor coaching too. Not using Delaney Walker enough. Going for it. When they shouldn't, and then not going for it when they should. The guy already missed several kicks, and they send him out for a 53-yarder at the end of the game. With 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. So everything went wrong for the Titans. I thought as a team, besides the offensive line, I thought they played pretty well. I should say, Humphreys didn't play too well. I had a drop or two in there. I like the slip screen call to Jonnu Smith. I love that play. So they had their moments, the coaching staff, but I think the Titans did enough to win this game. They put themselves in positions to score points. Credit to the Bills for holding them out of the end zone. Several missed kicks, and Santos has been pretty solid this year, even though he wasn't their main kicker. Suckup was their kicker, but Santos has looked pretty solid, surprisingly. And this Now, this is kind of the other extreme. I didn't expect him to look as good as he's been looking, but then this game, I didn't think he'd be this bad. Some field goals he should hit. 53-yarders, not really on him. Vrabel, bad call to kick that field goal. The Bills go down the field and clutch up and score again and win the game. Weird game. I thought the Titans had this one the whole way. I predicted the Titans, and I'm not really regretting it because I think they did enough to win this game. But the Bills keep on doing their thing there. Very impressive. Next game, Bears and Raiders. Now, what's weird about this one is what is the reason for the Bears' loss here? Is it, and it could be all of these things, but is it maybe the London factor? I talked about how London is, playing there is mysterious. Anything can happen. The Raiders flew there. They were there for a week getting used to it. The Bears just flew there on Thursday or Friday night, whatever it was. Could that have been the factor? Number two, could it have been Chase Daniel? He threw 2 picks, probably should have thrown 3. One got called back for another one of those absolutely terrible roughing the passer call. Could it have been Chase Daniels? It very well could be. My only reason for maybe not is because he was actually able to throw the ball downfield, things we weren't seeing with Trubisky. And Trubisky, hasn't really been on target. He's been throwing to the other team as well. So you can't really 100% say they've been way better off with Trubisky. Maybe, better off because he was their starting quarterback and leader. Or number 3 is the reason the Bears lost because maybe it's a bad matchup. Maybe they can't play against more of the offensive teams in the league. We've seen them play really good against the defensive teams that they can just outplay on defense. So maybe it's just not a good matchup. It could be a mixture of all those. It's basically you're assuming whatever one you pick, you're assuming these things at this early stage. The defense did not play good, really. It was surprising. So you can't really blame it on one thing. Within the game, it was kind of multiple things there, and the defense really wasn't there. They took Khalil Mack out of the game. On an early touchdown, they chop blocked him out of the play, which is legal. I think, all these things becoming illegal, I think that should be number 1, taking out guys' knees, but I can't, take away the credit from the Raiders. It's a smart idea. I thought they'd be tripling them up. They really weren't. They were kind of just, they doubled them up at times quite a bit, but they were taking them out of plays, with the chop block. The Raiders' offensive line, most improved unit. We saw the Colts last year, offensive line. Got to be the Raiders this year. Way to go out and spend the money on the offensive line. People doubted it. It worked out so far. Offense looked good. I thought Carr was great. He had that late pass to Foster Moreau. Beautiful throw in traffic. Fearless Derek Carr. Love to see that. And Josh Jacobs had himself a game. Interesting that Josh Jacobs was used with the pick they got for Khalil Mack, and he had himself a dominant game. The Bears, I credit their comeback. It was almost like the Raiders dominated this game, but then at the end, how did the Bears not win this game? Because the Raiders started off with that weird pitch. It was like a bullet pitch from Carr. Maybe Josh Jacobs should have stopped the ball still, and then he went back to cover it, and he definitely should have covered that ball up. I don't know what he was doing on that. And the Bears kind of get that gift, and then they got rolling, and the Raiders were able to move down the field again and just fumbled at the 1 centimeter line, and the guy kind of just dropped the ball. So, the Bears had their luck, and they were really getting the calls too with that interception by Chase Daniel, the third one, probably would have been the game for the Raiders, but very interesting roughing the passer call, but that's been going on for every single week, this year and most of last year too. It's just the whole game really, it seemed like the Raiders outplayed the Bears completely, but then at one point I'm saying, how did the Bears not win this game? But credit to the Raiders, credit to the coaching staff, the players. Like I said, I like Carr that he was fearless against this Bears defense. Kirk Cousins, I broke down his film against the Bears, and he was scared. He was scared to throw the ball to open receivers against the Bears. I think you can beat the secondary on the Bears. Kyle Fuller is not playing. He's not playing well right now at all. They have the best defensive football still, the Bears, but I think you can beat them in the secondary. I love Eddie Jackson. Mukamara's making plays, but I think that's where you beat the Bears. But you have to be able to, open up the playbook, throw downfield. So credit to the Raiders for that. We'll see if Trubisky's back after the bye for the Bears. But, I didn't think Roquan Smith played that good. He had a situation last week. So a lot of things going on for the Bears. You had a hurt quarterback. You had to go to London last second. Roquan Smith dealing with a situation. Yeah, I think it was somewhat of a bad matchup, too. And it's weird because I was tweeting about this, too. The last 3 weeks, we'll go back to 3 weeks ago. The Vikings absolutely dominate the Raiders, and the Bears absolutely dominate the Vikings. And now the Raiders, who the Vikings dominated, beat the Bears. You could say dominated too because, the score won't show it, but, the Raiders outplayed them the whole game. So that's kind of proof that you can't, predict based off the past. It's kind of just get the win and move forward because it's a very unpredictable NFL, and it's by the matchup. You have to play the matchup here. So we'll see if the Bears can bounce back, get their quarterback back, and get everything situated elsewhere. I know Akeem Hicks went down again as well. Next game was the Bucs and the Saints. 7-point game, but it felt a little more comfortable for the Saints. Strange one. I said it again. In the beginning here, it felt like this was going to be a turnover, a game full of turnovers, but it ended up not being. Early Winston throws a pick, and then after the pick, there was a flag for delay of game. They didn't stop there was no whistle. They didn't stop the play for it. I've never seen that one. The refs are throwing something new at us, at me at least, every single week. That's a new one, a little weird. And then we saw the Saints fumbled a punt. Thought he fumbled it. The review, no fumble. But then we had the Bridgewater's early interception. The Bucs could have taken advantage of that. They didn't do a good job taking advantage. Credit to the Saints defense. They've been playing out of their minds. Marshawn Lattimore is just ridiculous, holding Mike Evans to 0 catches. And last year, Mike Evans dominated him. I thought a lot of players dominated Lattimore. Even though sometimes they didn't put up the yards against Lattimore, he was getting beat big time. And he looks like a total different player. He looks like one of the best, maybe the best in cornerback in football right now. Insane improvement. Super impressed with that guy. Unbelievable. Marshawn Lattimore. And then I got to credit Teddy Bridgewater. Dominant performance here. Even when receivers were wide open, pocket presence looked so much more improved. It looked like back to his early years when he's playing for the Vikings and breaking completion percentage record. It looked like that. The pocket presence all of a sudden a week later just clicks and it's back. And this is the Teddy we wanted. So he looked really good, but really this was a battle between it's crazy, maybe the two best receivers in football at this point, between Chris Godwin and Michael Thomas. Both just tore it up. Both were dominant. Michael Thomas, wins the battle at the end, was absolutely dominant here in this game. You see every part for both these receivers. You see every part of the receiver game. They have it. There's no flaw to either of these guys' game. They're not lacking anything. You could sit here and say, maybe I wish he ran a 4.3, but they're still fast. They don't lack anything. So that is fantastic there. But the Saints defense has been super impressive. The Bucs, it's just that inconsistent Bucs team. 1 week they look like they're legit. We're getting a new Bucs team, and then next week it's back and forth. I want to see them stay consistent here. They're playing the Panthers again already next week. Who knows what's going to happen in that game because it's in London. But yeah, credit to Bridgewater stepping up. Michael Thomas was dominant. And like I said, that defense, Davenport, Marshawn Lattimore there. So, yeah, I thought the game might be a little closer, but the Saints pull it off there. We got the Jets and the Eagles. Not much to go over on this game. Didn't really expect the Jets to put up much of a fight here. Carson Wentz had a dominant game. I picked up the Eagles defense in one of my leagues for this week. That worked out. I think it was 35 points, so that worked out, but it was a no-brainer. But yeah, Wentz played a pretty darn good game. Kelsey tried to get him killed early in the game with that terrible snap, and then Wentz kind of, the way he tried to pick it up and then got hit in the knee. I kind of was a little scared on that one. It didn't look too pretty, but he's okay. But then Kelsey, I noticed a couple bad snaps in this game. Wentz controlled the rest of them, but that was odd to see. But overall, dominant game from the Eagles. They're gaining momentum. That's what's good here. The Jets should have Darnold back, so that could be a totally different team. You look at the other teams that have no wins right now. The Jets, they're better than those teams. They don't really. I don't know if they really deserve to be back there, but I still don't like the coaching. I don't like Gase. I hate that hire still, no matter what the situation is. But they'll be much better. They're not that bad of a team at all. But the Eagles get some momentum. They got to go to Minnesota next week. That's going to be a big-time game. The Ravens and the Steelers, very bad game for Lamar Jackson, but they find a way to win here. He was moving around the pocket pretty well, but off target, even when it was, not even talking about the interceptions. He was off target at times, but very close a lot of times, just missing. So just one of those days, I guess. And they still managed to win. Juju with a costly fumble. We've seen it at the end of last year. Kind of happened again here in overtime. So that was very interesting that popped up again. But a lot of Juju seemed emotional after Mason Rudolph got got hurt. So a lot going on in that guy's head. Still definitely rooting for Juju, but that's kind of on him there, that fumble. But in Mason Rudolph, hopefully he's okay. That was a little scary situation, but just a concussion at this point. Hopefully everything checks out. Devlin Hodges actually tore it up at Samford, but it was at Samford, so we'll see what he can do. They're running a little trickery, a lot of short passes, so we didn't get to see a whole bunch, but he looked pretty solid. But then he's got a lot of receivers beat up too. But the Ravens, stepped up when they needed to. It looked like they were going to easily win this game early, and then it kind of flipped a little bit at the end. But they end up getting the win, even though Lamar Jackson, where's your level of concern here if you're a Ravens fan? You concerned about Lamar Jackson continuing to play like that, or is it all positive because, okay, he shouldn't play like that again. He played really bad, and we still won. So, I don't know. The fan base might have to be split in that situation. So, it looked like they were going to get a little more comfortable win, then all of a sudden kind of went that direction there. But Steelers, rough year for them with the injuries, very unfortunate. Next game was the Patriots Redskins. Don't have a whole bunch on this game. Actually, the Redskins were staying in this game early. Their only touchdown was a surprisingly just terrible tackling attempts by the Patriots. Absolutely terrible. Something we haven't seen from them. But I guess that was just like a one-time thing there in this game. Other than that, defense clutched up. McCourty's been great this year. Besides that touchdown, I think he was one of the guys that missed the tackle or took a terrible angle. But Tom Brady didn't look too good early in this game. We see the offensive line I don't know if he's ever had this bad of an offensive line. They're not terrible, but compared to their great offensive lines, they are allowing some pressure here on Brady. And we see, now that he's getting up there in age, it's a little tough for him, but some of the interceptions he threw, like he threw last week against the Bills, the one he threw in the red zone against the Redskins here, man, I don't know if you ever see him throw the interceptions like that. His interceptions were never, even though they weren't pretty, really not like that. So, I mean, he stepped up then. Stats-wise, he looked real good, but still not, overly thrilled with this game there. But, I mean, I don't have a whole bunch on this game. Colt McCoy wasn't too good. But I don't know if any Redskins quarterback was. I don't like taking, I know Haskins had a bad game last week throwing 3 picks, but it really does a number on the kid's confidence, taking him out. I think you just kind of ride with it. But we'll see, now that Gruden's fired, we'll see what the direction is. But not looking good for the Redskins. But I do understand everyone's making fun of them that, they're saying they have what it takes to win is what they're saying, what their front office and ownership saying. Which you have to like their confidence. If you're in that situation, you'd be confident too. But I kind of see what they're saying. You go back and they were in this game for a little bit. The Patriots went on a tear late. The Redskins were winning this game 7-6, and it was 9-7 for a while. They were in this game. As disastrous as the Bears game was, they kind of were in the game still. And if they just limit those mistakes and some of the terrible play calls, they could be in that game. And it kind of was similar, they were winning the Eagles game, so I see what they're saying, but it's still not looking good for the Redskins. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position. I'm not really interested in watching the Redskins anymore compared to the other teams, but I will be if, Haskins is in. I would like to see Haskins in. Maybe that's just me. Next game, Jags and Panthers. I can't, it's official. I can't predict either of these teams' games. Every time I predict one to win, they lose. Every time I predict one to lose, they win. It just seems like how it is. Two just random teams, especially with the quarterback changes, still trying to figure out the identity of these teams. But one thing that is just crazy is the Panthers' defense is legit. Looking at how bad it was last year, and really not too many changes. Yeah, they in terms of the players. And you see what I'm getting at here, but they do add Brian Burns. But the change in somewhat of the scheme, it's a little bit of a hybrid defense. See a lot of 3-4 looks. I like that. So credit to the defensive staff. Starting with Rivera and then Washington, the defensive coordinator. Credit to them changing this defense for the better. I know they added Gerald McCoy too. So I know they added some pieces, but. The guys in the secondary are stepping up, playing better. Ross Cockrell's been great. Eric Reed. Shaq Thompson looks better in this. He's used as more of a weapon in this, and that's how he should be. So that's an example of it changing for the better. The guys in the D line, it makes it look like they changed the defense for a better. Mario Addison and Brian Burns have been lights out. Brian Burns, a freak athlete, rookie. Sky high potential. So they're making plays here. Besides 3 fumbles you can't have. But besides that, he looks really good moving around the pocket. Maybe he does a little bit too much of the pocket movement, and that's why he gets strip sack, but really he's a rookie. I mean, he just he just comes in here. He's got to play for the Jags, and he's a 6th-round pick. It's impressive still, even though he fumbled. I mean, he had some good balls too. DJ Chark seems to be his favorite target. Really good to see him, young receiver stepping up, super athletic guy, can do, pretty much can run any route. You can use him anywhere on the field. So that's impressive to see. But credit to that Panthers defense, credit to Kyle Allen for game managing, but credit to maybe the MVP in the NFL right now is Christian McCaffrey. The guy does it all. Every time, you're watching this game, it's McCaffrey. They even try to have him throw a touchdown in the red zone, and that would have been just spectacular, which he could have done. I wouldn't doubt that guy at all. He can do it all. I think this team could use another receiver. DJ Moore played pretty solid, but they could use another guy there to kind of, I mean, that shows how good McCaffrey is, because teams know it's coming. You want a little more talent maybe, so you can kind of throw teams off. What are we going to do here? And that just shows how good McCaffrey is. He only had one game he was off this year. It was against the Bucs. They play him this week again, so we'll see how that goes. But even though I hated that late no field goal call decision by Rivera to go for it, that could have costed them at the end. The game could have been put away, in my opinion. I hate that. And that was bad and could have cost them again. But I still have to credit the coaching staff, even Norv Turner, running this offense, keeping it fresh. Cam Newton, keeping it, unpredictable too. That's what I worry about, it getting predictable. So you have to credit the coaching staff, on both phases, all phases really. So impressive, crazy NFL season, and then even more crazy to think about Kyle Allen is the better quarterback than Cameron Newton right now, former MVP. And I don't think would be the case if Cam was 100% healthy, but it's still crazy to think about. The Jags were in this game too. That last drive was weird. A couple of flags that, I guess they were flags, but we don't see them on like Hail Mary option or chances, so a little weird, but I mean, what do you expect here? But interesting game, and we'll see what the Panthers can do in London against the Bucs. Looking forward to that one. Who knows who's going to win it? That's really my thought on that at this point. The Falcons and the Texans, an absolute shootout here. 53 points. Stat-wise, both quarterbacks looked very good. I think it could be a little misleading. Mainly Matt Ryan, he had no choice. They were down by a lot the whole game. They have no choice to throw. Yeah, he's hitting some throws. He hasn't been big time in big moments. He hasn't been clutch at all. The offensive line not helping him, like I've been saying. The offensive line hasn't been good. And then Deshaun Watson, he had a great game still, but I did see some moments from last year. Deshaun Watson, I've been raving about his pocket presence being totally different, totally fixed, better. Kind of saw little flashbacks. I didn't, at times I'm saying, the offensive line looked good. The offensive line blocked pretty well, and you kind of, act like he was under pressure, hold on the ball a little bit, step into, sacks, even though they end up being sacks, and then kind of got lucky on that one, fumbled the ball, picked it up, and ran for a first down. That was a negative play for Watson, no matter how it ended up. It's a negative play, but still had a great game, throwing the ball all over the place. He throws a great ball. It looks like the mechanics are getting better for sure, and ability to move. And then Will Fuller, just a dangerous wide receiver, and we see what this guy is capable of when he's healthy. We knew it already, but we love to see it in action. The guy's dangerous. He has elite football speed. You can throw him a screen pass. You can throw him a deep ball. He's just dangerous. And having Hopkins in there and Kute playing well too just makes it that much better. You just wish this team had a run game, because we seen the Panthers take advantage of that a week ago. They weren't worried about the run, so they played the pass. That's how they beat them. And that kind of shows how bad the Falcons' defense is. It's ugly. It's bad. It's sad because Dan Quinn's, this defensive mind, defensive genius supposed to be, and he can't get it done. But at the same time, the front office hasn't really given the best talent on defense. There's some really good, there's some solid guys, here and there, but maybe need a little bit more talent there on the defensive side of the ball. I wasn't agreeing with how many players they were rushing at time, especially against this Texans offensive line, but who I thought played good. The Texans need to get some kind of running game going. They really do, and the offense can be ridiculous. But teams like the Panthers, the way they game plan, I'm worried about that going forward. But yeah, very disappointing Falcons team that is. Broncos and Chargers, another strange outcome here. In a strange game within the game too. Early on it's just pure dominance from the Broncos. Cortland Sutton would have just beautiful touchdown. That was my guy years ago, and my guy in the draft last year was actually my number one receiver. And there was no hesitation for me putting him as a first round player. Goes in the second round, looks like a steal. I mean, he can do everything. You look at him, he's a big body receiver, but I mean, he can do everything. So that's really coming along good. But why it was weird is because he's having a dominant game over 4 receptions, and Emmanuel Sanders only had 1 or 2. So you're like, well, and then you kind of think, okay, yeah, they were up most of the game, so they're running the ball, and you look at Lindsey, and he's dominant. I mean, he only got the ball about 15 times too, so I thought that was weird. But they were able to manage it. They were able to win the game, move the ball. I've been saying that even when they were losing, I think I started saying it 3 weeks ago even, the Broncos offense is slightly improving. They're slightly getting a groove each game, and it kind of looked like it again. Kind of looked like slightly going in the right direction. So could that keep going up? They need Juwan James back. They get him back, it can go up even more. So there's some promise here for the Broncos. And the Chargers are so disappointing. This team's got a lot of talent. Phillip Rivers is disappointing. The pass protection is disappointing. The secondary, I know they don't have Derwin James, but the secondary is very disappointing. You wish there was more of a pass rush, but I mean, no Melvin Ingram, that hurts a little bit, but no Chubb for the Broncos too. And then another reason this game was weird was because the Broncos looked like they had this game put away early, and they were driving again. They're in the red zone, about to put the game out of reach, and then Nwosu gets a hell of a strip sack, a game-changing, a momentum-changing strip sack, and I'm thinking, okay, here's the moment where the Chargers turn around and win the game. They couldn't do it, but later on, the Broncos, you got Joe Flacco throwing from his own end zone, throws a pick, I believe it was tipped, but still. I'm again, all right, now this is the game-changing moment for the Chargers. That's the momentum changer that's going to win them the game. The Broncos just screwed themselves. What I'm thinking, and then Phillip Rivers throws a pick right in the end zone, just right. I think it was 2 plays after. I mean, so the Chargers just couldn't catch a break, but they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's their own fault at the same time. I didn't like the way they were splitting up Melvin Gordon and Eckler. Melvin Gordon didn't look good. He was running into tackles. For sure, hesitating a little bit. That's what happens when you're off football for a little bit. And maybe Eckler just fits the offense more. I thought right now he looks better. I'm not saying he's better down the road in general, but I didn't like the way they split them up with that. That actually costed them, I think, a bit. But credit to the Broncos. Like I said, slightly improving there. Defense looked real good. That's the defense we were kind of hoping to see from the Broncos this year. So we'll see if I continue. It should be a defensive battle against the Titans next week. Interesting. They can get going here. And they probably should already have more wins than they do have, too. The Packers and the Cowboys. I picked the Cowboys in this game because I thought Zeke would be the difference. A close game, but Zeke would be the difference. And my take didn't really get a chance because the Cowboys got down so much early that they couldn't really. Zeke really wasn't a factor. So I think if they would have stayed in this game, I think that could have been the factor. But credit to the Packers, man. They got that running game going. You got to credit Aaron Jones for running hard. He looked faster for some reason. Maybe he likes the Cowboys Stadium. He looked like getting faster by the week. Credit to the scheme. Really the play design. I'm going to credit the play design the most for those running games because it was unpredictable. And they were really throwing off these Cowboys linebackers. That's a good linebacker, supposed to be a good linebacker unit. And they were kind of going to the wrong hole, the wrong side of the play, the wrong direction. And that was the reason. I'm not trying to take anything. Aaron Jones, great. I can't stress that enough. But the play design were key, and just throwing the team off were just so good. Was amazed by it. But we've kind of seen that early in games for the Packers. While the script was going, the play designs, the play calls were great, and they let teams come back, which, again, they did let the Cowboys kind of come back. Wasn't as bad as the last couple weeks. But at the same time, the run game was still going. And you see the Cowboys, when they play an offensive team like that, what happens. And no Devontae Adams for the Packers, and you see, it didn't really matter. Rodgers still, kept it going, kept it alive. And Tyron Smith missing was key, though, because, like I said, I thought the key for the Cowboys just run the ball, but they weren't able to do that. They had to pass, so Tyron Smith being out was a bigger factor than everyone thought, or at least I thought. And that was crucial. And Leo Collins is hurt too. So yeah, basically Zadarius, the Smith boys, Zadarius Smith, mainly him. Preston Smith, they looked really good once. Zadarius Smith's been unreal. He was all over the place in this game. And I thought Kevin King was excellent for the Packers secondary. But Jair Alexander, on the other hand, he had a rough game against Amari Cooper. And I'm going to kind of go backwards. I'm going to go backwards to the beginning of the game and why this was so important. I think two game-changing moments. Early in the game, first drive actually, the Cowboys moving downfield, or it was the first drive of the Cowboys moving downfield, pretty easily, and then they have Amari Cooper, open. Pretty wide open. I don't know if he would have scored in that play. He could have, but then he could have been, he's pretty fast, but he could have been close. And the ball not only goes off his hands, the ball he should catch, but it goes like backwards right into the hands of Alexander, who he beat. So a weird, moment there, weird instance there in the game. And that was a complete game changer. The Packers go down and score, and that was a complete game changer right there. And then the next drive, Amari Cooper's wide open once again. Dak throws a good ball, and somehow they get the turf monster. Amari Cooper falls down. That was a walk-in touchdown. So those moments right there kept them out of the game, kept them from running the ball, which was the key. It had to be the game plan for the Cowboys, and kept them, Amari Cooper played a good game statistically. He played a good game routes-wise because he had a Jair Alexander beat all day. That touchdown from him was ridiculous. But two crucial, and people aren't really talking about the second one, two crucial mess-ups for Amari Cooper early in this game, I think made the difference. They came back late, showing they're capable of playing with a good team like the Packers. Those two moments changed the game, and I know Dak throwing interceptions, really changed the game too. But it started with that, so I think the Cowboys could have had a chance in this one. But the Packers played a great game without Devontae Adams. Like I said, the run game was great. Somebody that played just a terrible, terrible game and who has been disappointing, maybe minus last week, is Leighton Vander Esch. He was absolutely, I hate to bash one single player, but he was absolutely awful in this game. Absolutely awful. He was lost. He was falling down. He was missing tackles, tripping over his own feet, looked very unathletic, looked too slow for the game. What happened last year? Was that, this isn't, this year he hasn't been too good, except for I think it was the Saints game. But, last year he was so good. I credit to the Packers, game plan taking him out of plays, but yikes, not looking too good there. But, that's a big time win away for the Packers. Bouncing back, after the Eagles game. But you do maybe slight concern with the Packers how they let teams come back a little bit. Even though they're winning all of them but one, because they let the Vikings come back. They won that game. They held on. Same with this one. This one was a little more comfortable though, and they were up right away on the Eagles. I guess the reason would be the field goal touchdowns are better than field goals. I guess the best way to put it, but that's the obvious way to put it. So hopefully they can hold on to games. But I really like how they were unpredictable on offense, in the running game mainly. Like, you couldn't really tell. It was kind of like the Eagles game. They were pretty predictable with their play calling. Unpredictable, and I'm blown away with Zadarius Smith. He kind of was he a one-year wonder was the thought. The Ravens finally got him going. Is he going to be different going to a new team? Is he a one-year guy? And no, the answer is no. He's been dominant. Been fun to watch. And then we got the Colts and the Chiefs. Just like everyone just predicted, the Colts win and a defensive game, just like everyone predicted. Obviously, I'm kidding by that, but strange game. Right off the bat, you have to, the difference in this game was the two lines. Colts offensive line dominating, being better than the Chiefs defensive line. And then the Colts defensive line dominating, being better. They roughed up the Chiefs offensive line. They really roughed them up. They roughed up Mahomes. And that could have been a reason for the Chiefs offense not getting going was, Mahomes being hurt. Apparently his ankle's been messed up since earlier in the year, but then they kind of roughed him up in this game, and they roughed up the O-line. That could be a reason the Chiefs couldn't get anything going, but it's part of football. They're playing hard, and the Colts themselves have some injuries, So that could be it too. But I think the difference in this game was the two lines. Both Colts win the battle on both sides, and then the running game, which kind of goes into that too. Marlon Mack, you guys know I love Marlon Mack, one of my biggest draft hits. As soon as I put on the tape, South Florida game, loved him, and I've been hyping him up ever since. So, and he was good in this game. It helps that he has a great offensive line, but he hits the hole. He runs with strength, explosive, quickness. So I love his game. Frank Reich, gotta love him as a coach. They're getting things done here. I've been saying about the Colts though. This team is impossible to predict. It's an inconsistent team. Mainly the defense. I think I said that in the recap video last week. I think I said it in the power rankings video last week. I said it in the Pick'ems video last week. You can't predict this team. The defense mainly. Like 1 week like this game, they look like an elite defense, easily top 5, maybe top 3, probably top 3. But then you have games, I guess, like the Raiders game and then the Chargers game, where the defense looks like a bottom 5 or bottom 3 defense. There's just no motivation to tackle. There's no angles. There's poor missed tackles. And, they missed guys last week. They missed guys this week. So it just depends on, where their mind's at. Are they ready to play? I think it starts with the D-line. If the D-line gets a good push, then the rest of the defense is going to be good. So I guess now we know the D-line is key. But it's still unpredictable because how would we know that they would dominate the Chiefs' offensive line? Like, how would we know that? But you got to credit the Colts defense. It's just, when are they going to shoot? Like, when can I trust this team? It's a good team. It's a well-coached team. I've always liked Jacoby Brissett, too, another one of my guys I liked out of NC State. It's a likable team. A team everyone, unless your team's a rival of the Colts, everyone's got to be rooting for. But when can I trust this team? I haven't done the power rankings video yet, but what do I do with this team? They just beat my number one team. They just beat the clear best team, best offense in football because of defense. So they should soar, but power ranking is also about streaking, being consistent. And this team, I can't trust the team to stay consistent, or maybe I can now. It's a weird team, probably the weirdest team in football for me. And there's a lot of weird ones out there too, but you got to credit them. I will say, that first touchdown by Mahomes was just absolutely ridiculous. Only touchdown was ridiculous, but that's really all the only highlight. Byron Pringle was good. Getting the reps, and I guess Mahomes can make anybody look good, I guess, but credit to him. He's an athlete. He played good until, I guess, he kind of costed them on that third down where run straight, you get the first down. Instead, he tries to make a cut outside, right into where his blocker was blocking the guy to, and then they had to go for on fourth down. I didn't like the fourth down call. I also thought McCoy's fumble was a crucial moment in this game. Been kind of waiting for that to happen because he runs with the ball like an idiot, with the ball loose and just out in one hand. Kind of waiting for that to happen, so credit the Colts defense there. I don't think this is the real Chiefs, but if they're beat up, maybe we can continue to see that. I think the Colts have, it's so weird, the Colts have like this elite defense that only shows up, it's literally elite defense. This defense is elite, but I can't call it elite in general. I'm saying this defense from this game is elite, but I just can't call it in general. Like, I don't know which defense is going to show up. But going back to the Chiefs, I don't know if they're going to see that specific Colts defense every week, or anything similar, I should say, because obviously they only play the Colts once unless it's in the playoffs. But I don't know if they'll see. I mean, they play the Bears this year, but something tells me they'll be able to be the Chiefs are going to be much better against the Bears, who would probably have the best defense in football, and they play them this year. I'm pretty sure in Chicago. So it's just weird. The Colts are weird, man. I don't know. It's good to see it, though. Somebody take down the Chiefs. Not that I was rooting against them at all or anything. I'm a big fan of Mahomes' game. But, it's the Colts are a likable team. I just want to figure them out. I want them to figure themselves out, too. But what else can I say about that game? The T.Y. Hilton offensive pass interference, a little weird. I think maybe if he didn't he kind of flopped. I think if he didn't try to do that, maybe they would have reversed it. I don't know what the refs are thinking. And that's kind of another thing to sum up this week. There was another bad week from the refs, but it's nothing new. A lot of terrible calls. Roughing the passer calls were terrible. And there was one, I kind of skipped past the Packers-Cowboys one. Somebody put a hand on Dex. I just forgot about that. Somebody put a hand on, I thought the officiating in that game in general was terrible for both teams. There was a pass interference call that was just terrible. I think a couple of them absolutely terrible. They were kind of letting the Cowboys stay in the game, give them second chances in the red zone. It was just bad. But basically, to sum up this week, like I was saying, kind of going back to what I was saying, so many ref meetings in this game. Everyone just bunching together and having the meeting. And then what is going? I want them mic'd up. What are they saying? I'm realizing now that I miss talking about. I keep hitting that. I kept forgetting about bad calls, going back to Carlton Davis in the Bucs game getting ejected. That was terrible. I thought he was making a football move. What else was there? There were so many bad ones. The Chargers returned a punt, and they threw a flag for holding or blindside block or something. They had a meeting and picked it up because he scored. I don't get what goes on in those meetings. There were some bad calls that I didn't really agree with. There were some calls that I agreed with, but their flags were just extremely, extremely late. That goes for all games. It was weird. We even heard Collinsworth say, in the Sunday night game that after watching football all day, he doesn't know what to expect from the officials or what their call may be in the end. It's just so true. I did pretty much every week, but this week was one of those weird ones again. But yeah, kind of going out of order there. Apologize if I forget things. Hard to remember everything for every single game, talking about every single game in one video. But we got more NFL content the rest of the week. We got more content on our Patreon. Please subscribe. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.